gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's June the 7th, 2022. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day, presented as always by LifeWallet, where the time is now to take charge of your personal health. And Matt, so I've got these beautiful palm trees behind me today, and they're kind of symbolic because yesterday at the U, there were 9 top flight prospects that visited campus to spend the day amidst these beautiful, beautiful tropical objects of, I don't know, desire or whatever you want to call it, but whatever, that permeate the Miami campus, and just a continuation of just an incredible parade of talent that flows through Miami football headquarters every single day. This time around, it was largely the Miami Immortals 7-on-7 team, Jaylen Brown, Robbie Washington, and Bobby Washington, who are already committed, not Jaylen Brown, but Bobby and Robbie are already committed. Oregon wide receiver commit Jurian Dickey, defensive back Antonio Smith, and from the class of 2024, defensive back Desmond Ricks, defensive back Jaden Hardy, wide receiver Brandon Winton, and 2025 quarterback Colin Hurley, who I've been hearing might move himself up a class and be available to be recruited in the 2024 cycle. So, Matt, you can't say enough. I mean, we talk about this almost daily. People might be getting bored with it, but you can't say enough about the level of recruiting that's taking place now at Miami and the job that Mario Cristobal, his staff, and largely his support staff, that we don't even know who's doing what yet. Like we're still waiting for a job flow chart from the U so that we can figure out what everybody's roles are. But collectively, everybody is doing a great job.
What's interesting is, if you go last summer, for instance, and if there was one day last summer where just this group of 9 kids visited, it would have been the news of the summer. You know, yes. Wow, a 5-star, 3 or 4 stars, all these future stars come on campus, and now it barely even gets any buzz on our message boards because it's every day. I mean, how many people can constantly comment every single day like, wow, look who came today, you know? Fans are getting spoiled. This is how it should be. You know, fans should be spoiled. Fans should expect national championships. It shouldn't be a surprise when Miami beats a top 20 team. You know, this is how it should be. I think it's a good thing that this has become the norm and that fans don't seem to be surprised when we post, hey, nine great prospects were on campus today. And it's just, you know, like, okay, you know, what's happening tomorrow? You know, when are they committing? It really seems like the only thing that, Miami fans who follow recruiting, the only thing that's going to really get them excited now is commitments, because every top kid since January has been just coming through the door over and over and over again. I mean, I can't count the number of times Jaylen Brown and some of these other kids, even some under the radar kids who aren't allowed to visit, you know, by their prospective schools. It's impressive, but you know, at the end of the day, we'll see if the effort pays off, because like we talked about, NIL deals are now a factor. It's not, hey, look who we got on campus. We have a great chance with them because they came on campus. No, there's so much more that goes into it. It's not, hey, we're recruiting them harder than anybody else. They like us as a coaching staff more than anyone else. That would be great 2 years ago. Now maybe it's mitigated. It's very disappointing that when we finally, it just seems like every time you take a step forward with the Hurricanes program, you take a half step back. It's like we finally have a recruiting coach. We finally have a staff that understands how to correctly recruit. And now some podunk program a little north of us can just have some rogue booster come in and blow everything up after all the hard work you put in, maybe even on signing day. Like, we don't know yet where this is going to go. And this is what I keep telling fans. Fans just think this is going to be another normal recruiting process this year. No. Just this, after this last cycle, the agents have really gotten involved, far more so than the prior year. last year during the football season, we know who the agents were, the quote-unquote agents that were allowed by the rules for Miami Hurricane players, and they were not people associated with people with the last name of Rosenhaus, for instance. Okay, these were just guys who were sort of hangers-on, maybe some high school assistant coaches, people that these current Hurricane players knew from high school and trusted. Now it's literally agents. When we did the story on Xavier Restrepo the other day, doing his what's the name of that app? I've been doing so much stuff recently. Cameo, the Cameo app story, right? Like I said, then I called, Xavier and I have a great relationship. I called Xavier, hey, we're doing this story on you and Cameo. You want to talk to me, or should I just call your agent? I don't want him to have to say to me, I can't talk to you. And he says, call the agent, So I called his agent, and it's a real agent. Like, this is an agent who represents NFL players, and he's now representing college student athletes. And if you don't think these agents are telling these college student athletes, I'm going to shop you around, I'm going to get you a great deal next year, like, that's why they're this person's agent. They're that person's agent to make that person money. And guess what? They get a cut of the money. They don't want the player to not make as much money as possible, because then they're not making as much money as possible. These are professional agents. And that's why, not just in recruiting, agents are going to do everything they can to grab every top high school recruit. For those of you out there that think there's not illegal recruiting going on, think about any agent that you can possibly think of. And if you don't think they're trying to get their hooks in high school top recruits right now to make sure they're the agent for that recruit wherever they are around the country, you're out of your damn mind. So there's money being proffered around, agents pushing recruits everywhere, and you don't know where it's going to land at the end of the day. And again, this is all coming back to, can you still recruit like Mario Cristobal recruits, where he works harder than anybody else? The guy sleeps 3 hours a night. He's constantly on his phone. I have recruits telling me he's texting them at 1 a.m. and then at 5 a.m. Does that still work? We're going to find out in December and then maybe in February if there's more signs to go on then. My concern is, because me, Gary, I'm always worrying. My concern is all this work, all these visitors, everything they've put in, the time they're taking away from whatever they normally would be doing this time of year, because I've never seen a staff spend 12 hours a day just walking recruits around campus. I mean, Mario Cristobal spent 4 hours a couple of days ago just with one recruit, walking around campus himself. I've never seen coaches do this. Normally, coaches have their plates full with other things, whether it's game prep, roster management, checking in on kids in the weight room, calling kids in their office, you got to work harder, whatever it is. There's always some fire to put out or something to do. Mario puts his attention into recruiting. If that winds up blowing up because of NIL, it would just not be good for anybody involved with the Miami Hurricanes program. So you have to hope the NIL collective in Miami is as strong with the agents that are pushing people everywhere as anywhere else in the country, because if you level that playing field, Miami will get pretty much all the guys they need. If you don't level that playing field, these kids, even though Mario might have recruited them better and won, quote unquote, won in recruiting, he's going to lose in recruiting when it comes to signing day. So, for those of you that think it's just recruiting as usual, it is not. It is not even close. And we hear all the time about there's bagmen, there's handlers. They're still out there, people. They're still out there. We hear about them. We're not going to name names, but they're out there. They know who they are. We know who they are. And they push kids wherever they want. And now you add agents on top of that. It's like the NCAA has made this a disaster. The NCAA is an amazing, amazing organization, right? It's like anything that can go wrong will go wrong. It's Murphy's Law. Like that's the NCAA. It's the NCAA law, because everything they do is so counterproductive to helping student athletes, to helping programs, to doing what they ultimately want, which is to have student athletes that are students first and then athletes that are just playing for the love of the game. Everything the NCAA has instituted just goes against that. So anyway, I guess that was technically probably my what's it called? My DNR, my daily negative rant. I just didn't announce it, but there you go.
You just talked for 6.5 minutes straight, by the way. But you were eloquent, so I didn't interrupt you. All right, so listen.
Don't try to pacify me.
I do think I know where it's going.
Let me guess.
I'm always putting time into these things. I do think I know where it's going.
I can guess where you're going to say it's going. Miami's going to get who they need. Miami's going to get what they want.
I don't know. I don't know that.
But, you said you know where it's going.
But here's what I do. I think schools around the country have a choice. It's quite simple. And I'm trying to remember which coach it was. You might remember that said he had to have a $25 million or $15 million budget or whatever. It was somebody in the last few days. Might have been the Ohio State coach, Ryan Day, I think. All right. So anyway, Here's where I think this is going. Schools have a decision to make. Okay, they're either this NIL situation as it exists right now is probably going to linger for 1 or 2 years before everything works itself out. They figure out the ways to establish rules. The rules are going to probably be that NIL cannot be used as a recruiting inducement, which really are the rules now. But I think they'll put exclamation points on it. I think like they'll try to
How
say
do you police that?
you can't, but they're going to try. And I think it's going to get so crazy that they might get more cooperation than you might think around the country, because the way it is right now is a disaster.
The
For every
programs
school.
that cooperate.
Wait, I gave you six and a half.
The programs that cooperate with the programs in last
What I
place.
have to say yet. Just wait. Here's what I think. I think schools have a decision to make, and Miami's one of them. You're either gonna put up that 20, 25 million bucks for your NIL deals for all these kids, or you're not going to. If those that do, when things change in a couple years, are going to have good rosters. Those who don't want to put up that money or can't put up that kind of money are not going to have good rosters. And it's that simple. So if you want to be competing 3, 4, 5 years down the road, you better find the money to do these NIL deals now. Okay, that's my opinion on that. Now, that said, how is Miami going to find the money? Because I believe that Miami will play ball, and I believe that the people, and by Miami, I'm talking about the people that are handling NIL. I'm not talking about Dan Radakovich. I'm not talking about Mario. Okay, I think Miami, through these boosters, benefactors, whatever you want to call them, will play ball. Okay, you got John Ruiz, who has already said, I'm going to put up $10 million a year. Okay, so I mean, he holds that. You got to find another 10, 15 million. I think there will be a group that is going to form a collective. I'm still trying to figure out who's going to head that collective, but I think it's going to be a relatively large group of people that will put up the money for this collective, and that the burden of NIL at Miami will be shared. Okay. And then there's Dan Lambert, who's doing his own thing on the side and has people trying to raise money so that he can expand what he's doing in his organization into a more powerful group, and that has more money at its disposal. All right, so I do think that it will happen that way at Miami. I think Miami will be a player, but I don't think every school around the country is going to be able to do it, and those schools are going to get left behind. Probably not much different than the way college football has traditionally been. So we'll see. I think you're going to see the college football playoff expanded, probably to 12 teams in the next few years. I think there's going to be a lot of changes throughout college football to try to make it more equitable, give more teams a chance to compete. And, NIL certainly is going to be part of the equation for sure. All right. So we have a story on the website today about those 9 visitors that came in, and you could check that out. A couple other things on the website. We got a baseball column from Jim Martz, who tries to pull together everything that happened at the regionals and in the baseball season. And we see all the cries on the message boards and everywhere else. We know we talked about it on yesterday morning show about how there were going to be a lot of fans that wanted to see Gino DiMare fired. To no surprise, yes, that is the case. But no signs that that's going to happen or not happen. It's a little early in the equation. But Jim Martz, our resident baseball expert, did take the time to pull it all together. We also, I forgot to mention when I was talking about the 9 players, we also have a story about Bobby Washington's review of that 9-man Miami Immortals led visit yesterday. So that's on the website as well. Okay, a couple other stories that are on the website. You'll remember the name Andy Jean. He was a wide receiver commit from Miami Northwestern. We don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility that he ends up recommitting to Miami. So we bring you an update on all of that. he should be visiting Miami soon, probably Monday, June 13th. He's going to be at Texas A&M the weekend before.
He may even stop by today.
I was just going to say, he also may come even a second time earlier than that. So Andy Jean, Matt, clearly still has interest in Miami.
Yeah, he likes Louisville, Georgia, LSU. He's taking his officials. That's the thing is these guys are they're all going through the process. And for a lot of them, because of the December signing day, the process now is June. I don't know if fans have really adjusted to that fully. July's a dead period. So a lot of these top prospects want to decide before their senior season. A lot of them don't want to or won't be or will be asked not to by their high school coaches take official visits during the season. Some of them will during their bye weeks, but there's not a lot of opportunities there in season with school going on. Some of them trying to graduate early. It's just not easy, which is why we see, I think, there will be over 20 official visitors this month at Miami. And that's, sometimes that's how many they get to visit in the fall. So, it's basically, basically September through November pushed into June, because that December visit dates usually in the past has just been just for commits. So these are obviously for non-committed players. And the big one is going to be that Legends Camp weekend. There's going to be, if I had to guess right now, I think they already have 11 scheduled. I think there's going to end up being probably around 15, maybe more than 15 official visitors. And it's smart because if you extrapolate it like it was a regular signing day, you want that last visit date before someone announces. And this is the last visit date anyone's going to be able to take until the dead period ends, which I think is at some point in August. Maybe there's a brief window in late July. If I remember correctly, actually, the last weekend of July, I think there's a brief window. But the point is, this is for everyone who's taken 3, 4, 5 visits in June. This is going to be the last weekend before the dead period hits to go on a visit. And Miami wants to have that last say and have people be wowed. And if Miami can't get 5 to 10 commitments before the start of the season, I'd be surprised. They put in the work. If they don't add 5 to 10 commitments by really by the middle of August, I would say, then I would be disappointed. I think it'll happen. I think it should happen. And I think if it doesn't happen, it's because of what we just, it's because of my DNR. That's going to play a role.
All right. Let's take a moment here to hear from our friends at LifeWallet.
My name is Yohan Morales.
No, we can't play that commercial. I got to make sure I do.
He had a great series.
I know, but we're not playing baseball LifeWallet commercials. Let's try this one.
We here at LifeWallet take security very seriously. Our data security team is working constantly to make sure that your data is not accessed by anybody who you don't authorize.
Hey, what's up, man?
Yeah, I'm
Excuse me, sir. Thank you.
I have from CC, and he's thinking about it, and I'll be talking to CC. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
We use leading technology standards like biometric data to make sure that only you have access to your data and your identity is protected. LifeWallet gives you access to your entire medical history and information at the touch of your finger, so that it can save you time and can save your life.
Data transfer complete.
That still to this day, Matt, is the most creative NIL marketing piece I think I've seen. They did a nice job with that one. And while that one was playing, I deleted every baseball commercial from our queue. So we are not going to be featuring any more baseball commercials until maybe next year.
They had a nice football game yesterday at Mark Light Field. That just Miami wasn't involved.
All right.
A lot of runs scored in that game.
All right. There's one more story I want to talk about today. And I'm also going to use my executive authority and say, Matt Shodell, I want this to be the subject of your daily rant.
I already did my DNR. I have another one?
This is going to be an impromptu DNR. Okay, I want to test your DNR skills and put them to the max. Okay, and
maybe I'm not going to be negative. Maybe your subject will be very positive. I could surprise. Let's see what it is.
Here's the story I'm talking about. We have a story today on a big kid from Fort Lauderdale Dillard High, who is in the class of 2025. Okay, so that means he's not going to be recruited for 3 years. He played as a freshman. His name's Anthony Smith. He's already a 6'1", 320-pounder. Looks like a senior. Has 13 offers. Okay, the most recent came from Miami on June the 2nd. Now, Matt Shodell, here is what I want you to rant about. This is an absolute joke. Okay, the rules say that Miami coaches, because he's a freshman, about to be a sophomore, are not allowed to speak to him, okay? And they offered him, but the message had to be delivered through his coach at Dillard, because Miami coaches can say to the coach at Dillard, we are offering him. They can't tell him themselves, okay? Now, we know how much absolute garbage is going on out there that the NCAA has to what's the word I'm looking for? Judge. I don't know. My mind's drawing a blank on the word I'm looking for. There's a lot out there for the NCAA to sink their teeth into. Okay, I'll put it that way. Okay, this should not be one of them. Okay, what difference does it make if a kid is a senior, junior, sophomore, freshman? Why should college coaches, Matt, not be allowed or to speak to those kids like anybody else? Why is the NCAA dictating that? And I want you to tell me in your DNR today why the NCAA should be put on probation for having such a rule and should change it.
Well, first of all, it sounded like Ferman's DNR. And listen, just so you guys have to know, people
I had to show a little rage.
Great. People ask me all the time, how much time you and I spend preparing for these Good Morning CaneSports. And I tell them the truth. It's all day. We're constantly discussing what are we going to talk about and what will my DNR be. Now, the truth is, Gary and I we don't prepare for this at all. We're so busy that we honestly, I'll say to Gary, hey, I'm up or whatever, and we'll tape it. There's no preparation. We do not prepare for this whatsoever, which brings me to, Gary asked me for a DNR. I actually happen to agree with the NCAA. I can't do a DNR. And the reason I agree is because you don't understand, listen, I mean, you do understand this, but recruits enjoy the recruiting process for a month or two, and then they hate it. When the season comes, when September, October, November hits for a top recruit, don't shake your head. Let me just talk.
I didn't say a word. I'm just doing this.
Their senior season.
You're being soft. I'm putting my pink flamingos on.
In the old days, they would take their phone out of the wall because it wouldn't stop ringing. And nowadays, already in June, I have recruits telling me that they just turn their phones off or they put their phone on on DND. I got DNR fever. And to start that process for a young man who's in 9th grade or even 8th grade, a rising 9th grader, which, is ridiculous. Coaches are used car salesmen for the most part, okay? I'm not talking about Mario Cristobal. I'm talking about the majority of coaches. If you put 50 college coaches, 40 of whom are used car salesmen and their entire staff on a 9th grader, and then he's got to go through the whole thing again in 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, you can't, you will be so screwed up mentally with everyone telling you how great you are, constantly hitting you up on your phone, basically ruining your free time with constant phone calls and constant texts. And when you're that young, you don't know how to say no. You don't know how to tell an adult coach, hey, coach, I got to do my homework. Hey, coach, I need to graduate high school. The amount of time that these coaches take out of young men's lives when you have 50 offers and you can't narrow it down to 5 or 10 yet because you're in 9th grade, you can't handle it. High school seniors can't handle it. High school seniors, why do you think they put out top 9s, Gary? Because it's fun? Top 12s because it's fun? No, because they want to tell the other 40 schools, go back home to Alaska and Hawaii and stop bothering me. That's why these student athletes put out top lists. You think if they enjoyed being recruited, they would love to have 50 schools constantly calling them and telling them how great they are. These student athletes don't love it. Talk to some recruits who are 5-star and 4-star kids. See how much they enjoy recruiting in October and November.
But what does that have to do?
December. They don't like it.
But what does that have to do with Anthony Smith
because
being
you
able to get a phone call from Mario Cristobal or a phone call from Joe Salavea saying, we want you to be a Miami Hurricane? What is your idea?
So your idea is it's okay just to call and say you have an offer and that's it? That's who cares? Either you let them be contacted by high school coaches, by college coaches, or you don't. You don't just make a rule. Okay, you can call them and say you have an offer and then hang up. Like that's ridiculous.
Listen, if the coach from Florida or Florida State tries to call and they don't want to speak to them, they just don't have to take the call.
But that's not what happens. That's not what happens. They're in ninth grade.
Don't take the call.
That's not what they do in ninth grade. You don't understand. They're not adults.
I mean, I could get why they wouldn't want to hear from Billy Napier or Mike Norvell.
You had 2 kids. I have 2 kids.
I wouldn't want to hear from those 2 guys either. Just don't take the phone call.
When my kids were in ninth grade, they had no idea how to manage their time without college football coaches calling them. It's a struggle, man. And you add that into the equation, and not that some of these kids don't have parental guidance, but some of them don't have parental guidance as much as others do. It's difficult, man. And I've got zero problem with that. And of all the NCAA rules, that's probably the only one I actually happen to agree with. Because I've had so many recruits over the years just complain to me about these coaches that harass them, and don't stop. And they feel like they can't tell the coach, I'm not interested. Hey, coach, stop calling me. They feel like they can't say that, which I don't even know why. Like, even myself, I'm the nicest guy in the world, right, Gary? I literally, come November, I understand these kids are getting hammered. I say, listen, I'll text them. I'll say, if you don't want to talk, just tell me you don't want to talk. I don't want to bother you. Do you know how many recruits have said to me, I don't want to talk? 1, Jaleel Florence. And the only way he told me was when he texted me, I'm blocking you. No other recruit has ever said to me, even after I sent him that text or told them on the phone, listen, I know things are nuts. You ever get overwhelmed and I reach out to you and you don't want to talk, just say, hey, try me in 2 weeks, try me in a month, whatever. Yeah, I'm fine with that. But none of them have ever said, okay, do that.
I will point this out. He obviously didn't come to Miami, so.
Well, yeah. What's that got to do with it?
When a kid does that, you can usually tell. All right, that's going to do it today for Good Morning CaneSport. I'm really disappointed, but not surprised that Matt lined up.
I'm not going to lie.
I set him up for a great DNR, and he had to go against the grain and disagree with me yet again.
Don't make me do DNRs when I don't believe in them. I'm not going to do a fake DNR. Of course, I could have taken the other side on it, but I don't believe in the other side of it. I just don't. I'm sorry. I'm not going to make it up.
All right. Well, we thank everybody for making us part of your morning, and hope you have a great day at work or school or wherever you're going. For Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. We'll see you next time, everybody.